Nintendo's motto is surprise and delight. However, after the reveal of the long-awaited Switch 2, some fans ended up feeling more underwhelmed and pissed. But here's the thing, no one is crazy. People react based on the limited things they know at specific points in time. However, even if the reveal did leave us with some questions, was it worth the blow up? Let's talk about it, and let's see if some of these points can be defused. First, we're going to take a look at the lead up to the Switch 2, or lack thereof, and the initial first impressions. The first issue people found with the reveal of the Switch 2 is the lack of a lead up. If you look back at 2016, right before the initial reveal of the Nintendo Switch, less than 24 hours before the initial reveal, Nintendo put out a tweet. It was the tweet with the famous photo of Mario peeking from behind the curtain. The tweet helped prime up the Nintendo audience by letting them know that something big was happening very soon. And of course, as we all know, that wasn't the case for the Switch 2. Instead, Nintendo opted to shadow drop the trailer for the Switch 2 without giving anyone any warning. This led some fans to feel like Nintendo was treating this too casually. After all, it's been 8 years with the Nintendo Switch, and a new console generation is always a big deal. However, I know a lot of people know this, but I feel like people forget about it anyways. Nintendo is not in the same shoes as they were in 2016. In 2016, Nintendo had to do anything and everything to drum up attention, and they had a severe case of look at me syndrome. But it was for good reason. Nintendo really was in a very dire situation after the catastrophe the Wii U was for them. But now in 2025, Nintendo is a very different company. There's new leadership, and a much different financial situation. But even at that, Nintendo did send a warning tweet. On May 7th last year, Nintendo had already made an announcement that the announcement for the Switch 2 was on the way. And I love announcements just as much as the next person. However, I don't feel like we need the announcement to announce the announcement of the Switch 2. Especially considering Nintendo had already given us a time frame to work with. But once people had finished watching the teaser trailer, some of the more vocal fans expressed that there was a lack of Nintendo flair during the announcement. And overall, the console felt very safe and boring. At first glance, I would completely understand why people would think this. However, notice how there are literally 0 words explaining what's actually happening during this trailer. The only text you can find in this trailer is the name of the console, the backwards compatibility, and the announcement of the Direct and the live experiences. But there's nothing here exactly explaining what the Nintendo Switch 2 can actually do. It's up to the viewer's imagination what the possibilities for this console could be, because yet again, this is only a teaser trailer. The purpose of the video was to leave you wanting more, and there is more on the way on April 2nd. Really, it's the same concept as going to a restaurant. Would you go to a restaurant, order a small appetizer, then complain that you're still hungry before the food arrives? No, of course not, because the meal is the main course. The appetizer was just supposed to get you excited for what's to come. Another sore point is people felt like there was no innovation. However, it's like I said, we really don't know much about this console overall yet. Officially at least. I know there's tons of leaks out there. However, the innovation you should be looking for shouldn't be in the hardware itself, but rather the games you're going to be playing with it. But if you really do want to talk about innovation in the hardware, what about the mouse controls? There isn't really, at least to my knowledge, any other controller out there doing that. And as I mentioned in my last video, I suspect the Joy-Cons can do one more thing that nobody's talking about. Of course, there's the DualShock 4 and the DualSense that have the little trackpad, but it's not really a mouse though. But a second question you should be asking yourself is it innovation or just simply a gimmick? For instance, let's look at my favorite gaming controller out there, the DualSense with the PS5. Over the holidays, I've been playing Astro Bot, and what a fantastic experience that is, because the controller masterfully uses every single feature that the controller has to offer. For instance, I absolutely loved when you go skating and you can feel the grit of the ice on your hands. And I really love the specific uses of sound effects in the game. And overall, the way they play with the features that the controller has to offer, it really does add to the immersion. And overall, it feels like a game that you can only really experience on the PS5. But here's the thing. Is every addition to the controller an innovation or a gimmick? because outside of Astro Bot, I haven't really played any other game that is really truly taking advantage of every single feature the controller has to offer. And if the people that are creating the games we play don't really see value in utilizing all these features in every single game, it kind of just begs the question, is it simply just a gimmick and does it have to be there? Because if it truly was innovation, I feel like a lot more games would find it vital to use all of these features. That's just an example, however, but if you need another, look at the IR sensor on the Joy-Cons. If you remove the IR sensor from the Joy-Con, I feel like the Switch generation would still look very similar to the timeline we're on now. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's still plenty of runway before the Switch 2 takes off, so it's kind of early to already be saying that the Switch 2 has nothing new to offer. Now, let's move on to the next section. Now that a couple of days has passed since the initial reveal, how are people feeling? Turns out some people are cuddled up and right down cozy in their little pits of despair. Doom post after doom post is genuinely hard to keep up. I've seen some people say that the design looks too similar to the original Switch, which is absolutely a valid point, but considering it's a sequel to the Switch, it makes sense. Plus I'm not quite sure how it's supposed to change if we were going to be keeping a big tablet in the middle with the controllers on the side. Another comparison I find slightly sillier though, is people saying it looks too similar than any generic PC handheld system. You know, considering that the generic PC handheld systems are based off of the Switch. I've also seen a video of a repair technician that claims that he's found a weak point in the system. He claims that with the new mounting mechanism for the Joy-Cons to the console itself, it creates a vital fail point. He uses the example of a kid that might get angry after losing a game and folding the controller to the back. There's a couple issues though with that statement. First off, nobody has touched this console, so it's hard to attest the quality of the console itself, again, because nobody has actually touched it. Also, if anyone at any age, not only kids, destroys their console in a fit of rage, I hate to break it to you, but the problem doesn't lie between you and Nintendo. That problem lies between you and a registered therapist. Plus, the hinge on the original Nintendo Switch isn't that much sturdier anyways. I feel like if a lot of people were asked how much force it would take them to actually just snap the console, a lot of people would probably say not much. So I'm not saying it won't be a problem, all I'm saying is that if it wasn't a huge problem with the original Nintendo Switch, chances are the Switch 2 will be fine. And although this was completely predictable, I do think the weirdest take is people that are complaining about the power. Again, this trailer didn't mention anything about anything. No words were on screen to describe what was going on. So theoretically, I know we do know through leaks how powerful this console will be, but there's nothing official as of yet. Also, it's quite possible Nintendo will never admit how strong this console really is, the exception of course of saying it's going to be X times stronger than the original Nintendo Switch. Because Nintendo doesn't want people to be focusing on these things, they want them to be focusing on their games. I've actually seen a couple of individuals say that there's literally no reason for them to be buying a Nintendo Switch 2 over a ROG Ally or a Steam Deck, because chances are those consoles are going to be even more powerful than the Switch 2. Now, my rebuttalment to that statement is, were you ever really considering buying a Switch 2 in the first place? Or are you just trying to make a rage bait tweet to get a couple of likes? Because believe me, absolutely do not buy a Switch 2 if you don't think you're going to be using it, you know what I mean? Don't waste your hard-earned money. But people buy Nintendo consoles to play Nintendo games. If I want to play the next Mario Kart game, I'm not going to be able to play that on a Steam Deck. Because the games that can be played on things like the Asus ROG Ally and the Steam Deck might be able to be found on the Switch 2, but the games that people are looking to play on the Switch 2 can definitely not be found on these other systems. So if these people are in fact being serious about being happy buying another console to be able to play the games they want, chances are there was never any intention on looking to buy the Switch 2 anyways. But now that we've looked at some arguments and some counterpoints, what do I think about all of this? We'll get into that shortly, but first I have a small message to say. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrien and I post weekly Nintendo videos just like this. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, I would greatly appreciate it if you would simply consider to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's go right back into the video. So what do I think about the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2? Well, first of all, I believe a lot of people could find benefit in taking a deep breath. And I also do understand that if you do fall in a pit of despair, it is quite hard to climb your way out of it. But when everybody is dooming and glooming over this new console, for me, all I'm getting is an intense feeling of deja vu all the way back to 2016. People were claiming that the original Nintendo Switch was behind its time in terms of power, and that was going to be scaring off a lot of people from buying the console in the first place. But fast forward to 2025 and we know that that was certainly not the case. And I really do genuinely believe if you don't think this system is going to be something for you, absolutely don't buy it. But for me, I know I want to play Nintendo's next generation of exclusive games, so this console is for me. And you can absolutely disagree with me, but I personally truly do believe that the Nintendo Switch 2 is exactly what we need from Nintendo in this specific point in time. It's been how many years that we've been having the exact same conversations? The reason the Wii U failed is because it was too gimmicky and the name is confusing. And when you hear the words Switch 2, you know exactly what to expect. And the Switch already had such a great library of games. And if Nintendo thinks that they can recreate that again for the Switch 2, I absolutely want in. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Do you think all of these complaints are blown out of proportion? Or is there any validity to it? I'm curious to see how you guys feel. I would once again like to thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. And if you did enjoy this video, why not check out another one? For whatever reason, YouTube thinks that you'll enjoy this one, so try checking out that one next. And until next time, Wadao.